Hi, my name is Rachel, and today I get to talk to you about recruiting. So, I'm really excited to share with you a framework of how all these steps that we've been learning are going to work together to make the recruiting process, right? We get a lot of information. We have a lot of steps. We know we're supposed to post and make new friends. We build relationships. We share, we invite to events. Maybe we do three-way chats. We close the deal, right? We have all these things that we know fit in. But here is what can happen sometimes to some of us. It happened to me. So you start out and you do all these things and it works. It just feels really easy and like people are coming and signing up and it's great. And then it stops working. And then you think, okay, I must just need more people. So you try to make more friends, but they're not signing up. And suddenly it starts to feel like nothing's working and you start to believe that you can't recruit. But that's not true. We can all recruit. It just is a matter of understanding the process and knowing how the different steps fit together. So that's what I'm going to give you today, this framework. And I'm not going to take credit for this. I learned this from Kristen Boss, a coach, but just putting it into our context today so that it makes sense. Okay, so when we start out, there are three markets of people that we may not be aware of. One is our warm market. This is where most of us start. These are people who know us, but maybe don't know a lot about the products, right? There also will be some hot leads. So these are the people when you shared, they messaged you and were like, sign me up. So often they're very aware of their issue. They've been looking for a solution and they trust you. Everything's in place. So when you share a solution with them, they're just ready to get started. So you had your warm market, you had your hot leads. That's often how a lot of us start. You may be somebody who doesn't have much of a warm market and you may be frustrated feeling like, well, I'm starting, but I'm not getting very far like others, right? Again, this is not about you. This is just understanding that we all have different influence and we all come into this business in a different place. But you can build this all. Okay, so then we also have a cold market, right? That's the people who don't know you at all. So here's the framework of the whole overall process is your goal is to take somebody eventually from like a cold market. You're going to attract people. Okay, there's millions and millions of people out there. You're going to attract people to you who are similar. Then you are going to warm them up. You are going to help them get to know you. You are going to get to know them. You're taking them through this process, exposing them to the product until they become a hot lead, and then they sign up, right? That's sort of what it looks like. The question is, how do we do this? And how do all these steps that we already know how to do, how do they fit in to this, okay? So let's think about our cold market. And maybe you haven't thought about this at all, which is fine because you have a really great warm market and you're doing that. This is all going to make sense together. So we talk about attracting people. This is where we learned about making friends, right? This is the attracting piece. You're making friends. You're finding people you like, people who like you, and they're coming to you, right? And that involves conversations, new chats. It also involves posts that are fun. They're just about you so people can get to know you, right? You're just attracting people. They want to follow you. They see your page. Or if you're thinking in person, it's like you meet somebody, right? You have a conversation. You've now connected. Now that person, I could say they're in your cold market because they don't really know you very well. They don't trust you yet, right? They're like, oh, this seems like a nice person. So how do we get somebody from that place to our warm market? That is where we talk about building relationships. Marge did such a great job in talking about building relationships. This is where you're building. This is where you continue to post things about yourself and that are adding value. So you're showing who you are. You're showing that you can solve a problem, even if it's as simple as like a recipe for dressing. That's solving somebody's problem. You made them laugh. That is great. You taught them something little, right? You are showing who you are and you're building trust. That is what we want to do with our cold market. We want to build trust. Okay, so and there's people in your life, right? Somebody you meet at church, maybe you're not close friends. They already know you, so they're kind of in your warm market. You've maybe built trust with some people, so you're building into this warm market. Now, when people are in your warm market, you want to be exposing them to the product. So they trust you, they like you, you give great recipes, whatever it is you do, you share good tips, you make them laugh. And now you want to expose them to the product, right? You want to build their belief. This is where you maybe share your own story, you're sharing testimonies, or like why a probiotic is important. So this is nurturing. This is just, when we talk about touches, this is where it happens, right? Just different touches to help them. Maybe you invite them to an event, you put them in a Facebook group, right? The important thing to remember in your warm market is these are not hot leads. They are not ready to sign up. So if you invite somebody to an event and they don't sign up, don't be discouraged. They're not at that place in your process. They just needed more exposure. And you can, when you understand that, you don't start thinking, oh, it's me, I can't sign people up. You're saying they're just in the middle of this process. Okay, I invited them to an event. Now I know I can expose them more to products. I can send them a story. Follow-up, right? We talk about follow-up. That's part of this process, is just continuing to expose them because they're your warm market and you're building something here. Okay, if you stop here, you've done half the work, right? Sometimes we stop, we give up, we followed up 3 times, they didn't want it, right? Or maybe we didn't go to the next step, right? So let's keep thinking about that. So just keep this process in mind where people are at. So maybe you've followed up several times, you've invited people to events. Now they're becoming a hot lead, right? You can tell they're interested. You have to close the deal. That's what Paige just talked about. That's what we do with our hot leads, right? We've poured into them. They trust us now. They've been exposed to the products. But what we do with our hot leads is we have to close the deal. Otherwise, they might just kind of stay there forever, right? We want to bring them all the way through that process. But here is the thing to remember. We're not closing the deal with our cold market, right? You've met somebody, you've had a good conversation about how you both love cats. It is not the time to be like, hey, there's a sale. Would you like to sign up? You know, that doesn't work because there's a process and you didn't take them through you didn't warm them up. You didn't expose them to the product and get them to trust you. So it's really important to understand where people are in this process. It's not complicated. Don't get into your head right now. It's actually really simple, right? Do they trust you? Have they had some exposure and interest to the products? And if you're like, we've had great conversations, not a lot of exposure. Okay, they might just be in your warm market. That's when you expose them, put them in a group, add them to an event, right? If you're like, oh, we've had a few conversations, it's like, Kate, maybe it's time to close. And the way you do this is with messages and posts. So posts are like indirect messages, right? You target them to one of your audiences, your cold one, your warm, or your hot market. And maybe you've never thought about it this way. You're just like, well, I just post something about myself. Okay, that's great. Now you know that that's kind of to your cold market. You're building trust. You're showing who you are. So you need to do those, right? 2 or 3 times a week. You're building your cold market. But you also need to be doing posts that expose your warm market. That's why you share a testimony. That's why you share about a product you love, because you're also exposing, like, you need to be connecting to your warm market. If all you do is post to your cold market, you're never going to build the exposure you need, right? You have to be doing all 3 types of posts. The attracting and the nurturing, where you are, sharing the value of the products and why, like what changes in their life. Okay, and then closing posts. These are the fun ones when we're like, who wants to try my pink drink? And you get people signing up because they're your hot leads. Okay, you can post to your hot leads. You know that your cold market's not going to respond to that kind of post, but you got to do all 3 types of posts. Okay, to your cold market, to your warm market, your hot market. It feels very intentional when you sit and you say, who am I posting to today? Know your audience, who you're posting to, okay? You know how to do these posts. You've been trained in a lot of this, but now you just understand how it fits together. The same is true with messaging people, right? We talk about conversations and we can sit here in confusion like, what's a conversation? Who do I message? How does this work? No, you have absolute clarity now, okay? Because you can message your cold market. Are you going to message them a closing message? No, because you know they don't trust you yet. This is somebody you just met. You're just going to keep having conversations. Ask them questions, right? This is where we find out what's going on in people's lives. That's a conversation, but that's a cold market conversation. Then there's warm market conversations, right? That might be where you're saying, hey, I've gotten to know you. I know like you have a lot of allergies. Like, would you like to hear a story about, how my friend healed her allergies? Okay. Again, this is just, you realize they need exposure. They need to build belief. So you're going to be having belief building conversations, also continue to nurture that trust, those types of conversations. But you need to know who is your warm market and send them a message that matches, and they'll respond. They'll be like, oh yeah, we've talked about animals a lot, and now she's telling me about this. I want to listen. Do you see how it works in the process? And you don't need to sit here and be like, I don't know what to do, or it's not working, because you are directing conversations depending on where people are at. Then there's those people you're like, oh my goodness, we have talked about Plexus, and you're like, this girl needs to sign up today. And so you just write a full on, this is why it's great for you to get started today, right? You might not do that to somebody who you've only mentioned Plexus to once, or they haven't really responded. And I think what's confusing is when we randomly send closing messages to everybody, it doesn't seem to work. But when we can relate to people where they're at, and you know who your hot leads are, and you send them closing messages, it does work. Okay, so it's not you. It's just understanding where in the process people are. It is completely fine if you have not been doing it this way, because you've been taking great actions. They've been targeting well. This is to help you understand why sometimes you might go through a phase with no recruiting, and sometimes you're getting a lot of people and you don't maybe understand what actions led to that. That was me. I kind of felt it was a mystery, and I'd do actions and sometimes they'd work and then it would kind of fade off for a while, and then you'd recruit a few more, and I didn't really understand why. But having clarity helps us to be really intentional so that we can be recruiting every month. So when you have this process going, the cold market, those conversations you are having now, they might become your hot leads in 6 months. Okay, so if you have those conversations every day, every week, in 6 months, you are going to have hot leads, and you will never run out of that. You keep the process going. Right now, there might be some people you met a couple months ago. They're now your warm market. They might not sign up this month. That's okay, because 2 or 3 months down the road, some of them will be ready. And when you know that, you can just keep consistently taking the steps. And that's why consistency is so important. Because if you break up this process, you're kind of starting from the beginning. If you stop nurturing and you stop exposing people because you think it's not working, then you're going to have to rebuild some of that trust again. And it takes time, and you get 2 or 3 months in and you didn't get to maybe 6 months with somebody, right? So I really want to encourage you to be consistent in this process and to know it has results if you stick with it. So maybe you've got lots in your warm market, so you want to add a few, you want to focus on your cold as well while still working with your warm market and your hot leads. If you're like me and you didn't build that consistently, then it could be some time without recruiting, and that is okay. That's where you track. You're like, I didn't recruit this month, but you know what? I have 10 really great conversations with people that I didn't last month. That's a win, because I know that 3 months down the road, good things are coming from those conversations. And we can really keep that perspective, that vision, because we know this process. And I just want to make it okay to not recruit for a couple months if that's the place you're in, and to look for those wins. Be like, okay, but I added 20 friends this month. I have 10 new amazing conversations. Those are as much wins as recruiting people, because those are people you are going to help down the line. And we just need to stick with it and not be like, I have to sign somebody up this month. I mean, if you've got people in your hot leads and your warm market, absolutely go for it. There is no, but I want to encourage you in this, that this process 100% works when you stick with it. Okay. So to summarize the framework that we talked about today is that we have our cold market, our warm market, and our hot leads. And we are taking people through this process using all the skills and steps we already know. Can I just say that again? You already know the steps. And if you don't, they were all explained last week, right? How to attract a cold market, how to make new friends. That is attracting your cold market. How to build relationships. That is taking them to the warm market. You're going to build this, right? Then there's all those exposing steps, how inviting to events, all those things, and closing the deal, okay? Those are all skills you have, and you're going to be intentional in doing all of them every week. Your posts and messages are direct and indirect communications that you're using to speak to your cold market, where you're building trust, to your warm market, where you're exposing to products and building belief in the product and the business. Don't forget the business. And then your hot leads, where you are closing the deal and signing with the people who are ready. So today, when you post or when you start conversations, think about where people are in this process. So what kind of post is it? Are you posting to people to just get to know you? Are you doing a post that's just sort of product exposure, value of gut health type thing? Or are you doing a closing post? Okay, know that. And also when you have conversations, are you starting a conversation with somebody? Don't bring up the products right away, right? Are you continuing a conversation that's been going on with somebody? Yeah, maybe it's time to ask if they'd like to join a group or come to an event, okay? And is there somebody that you've been talking to for a while and you just need to close with them? So be really intentional on understanding the process and directing those conversations and posts to the market. I know this has been long, but I want to add on one quick thing. This is all done in a posture of service and love to every single person you interact with. So you might have initial conversations with people that fall off, and that's fine. Or people might stay in your warm market and, they don't want to sign up. They just like you, but they don't want your products. So everything we do is out of service and love because they will be served by your posts. You are adding value. You are encouraging them. You are just loving on people, and they're not all going to become hot leads, right? And we are not controlling that. We are just taking intentional action in this process and trusting that the people who are going to go through it are the right people. We are going to love on every person regardless of where they are, how fast they go through. There's so much difference, right? Some people are fast, some are slow, some are just going to stay in your warm market. That is okay. We do everything out of love and service for people, but we just are intentional. So I just wanted to add that in.